Then wheel Josephine and Robbie out to the ambulances. Her bedroom was a crime scene now, rope still hanging from the ceiling, drug paraphernalia on the floor, that horrible note on her dresser. She felt her stomach heave and barely made it outside. Before being sick in her mother's rose bushes, Detective Ua followed her out. "Ms. Martinez, we need to understand something." Josephine clearly knew we were investigating her, but how I called from my personal phone, she wouldn't have recognized the number. Officer Chen spoke up. The only person who knew we were asking about Josephine was the receptionist at the apartment, Dolores's detective. Ua nodded slowly. She had to have warned Josephine, called her after we left. It's the only explanation for why Josephine immediately took such drastic measures. But why would she protect her? Irene asked weakly. That's what we need to find out. And why dump the bicycle that night but keep Carl's keys all these years? The detective's phone buzzed. "Officer Mendes has the warrant. They're searching Josephine's apartment now." He looked at Irene, still pale and shaking. "I need you to come with us. We're going back to that apartment building. I have a feeling Dolores knows more than she told us. And after that we'll need your full statement at the station. Everything from this morning until now." Irene nodded, following him to the police car on unsteady legs. She looked back once at her house, now wrapped in crime scene tape, and wondered if she'd ever feel safe there again. They drove back to 4782 Industrial Boulevard. Intense silence. Detective OOAS jaw was set, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. Officer Chen sat in the back with Irene, who stared out the window, still processing everything that had happened in her bedroom this time. When they entered the apartment building, Detective Ua didn't bother with pleasantries. He strode directly to the reception desk, where Dolores sat, looking nervous. "Ms. Ramirez," he said, using her last name from the employee badge she wore. "We need to talk now. Is everything okay? Did you find them?" "Cut the act, Detective." OOAS voice was sharp as steel. "We know you called Josephine Miller after we left, warned her we were investigating her." Face went pale. "I don't know what you mean. We're pulling your phone records as we speak, officer." Chen interrupted. "Cell phone, desk phone, all of it, every call you made today will be documented, so you can either tell us the truth now or wait until we have proof and charge you with obstruction of justice and accessory after the fact." "Do you know what Josephine did after you warned her?" Detective OOA leaned across the desk. "She went to Ms. Martinez's house, drugged her boyfriend with enough opioids to kill him, and tried to hang herself while pregnant. That's on you." Dolores began to cry, her carefully styled hair falling into her face as she buried her head in her hands. "I didn't mean for that to happen. I was trying to help her." "Help her with what?" Detective Ua demanded. The story came out between sobs. Dolores had taken Josephine in when she was just 15. A runaway from an orphanage who'd shown up at the apartment building, half-starved and desperate. She'd let her sleep in an empty unit, brought her food, eventually helped her get a job, and her own apartment. "She was like a daughter to me." Dolores wept. "I never had children of my own. She was so lost, so broken. Nobody had ever loved her properly." "What does this have to do with Colby Martinez?" Detective OOA pressed. Dolores wiped her eyes, seeming to age 10 years. "In that moment, Josephine met that man, Robbie, at a bar about 8 years ago. She fell for him hard, but he already had a girlfriend, Colby. And when Josephine found out Colby was pregnant, she shook her head. She became obsessed. Said it wasn't fair, that Colby didn't deserve him, that she was just some male carrier, while Josephine could give him so much more." Irene made a sound like she'd been punched. "Officer." Chen put a steadying hand on her shoulder. 7 years ago, Dolores continued, Josephine came up with a plan. She knew Colby's postal route, knew she delivered to this building on Saturdays, so she called in a package pickup request. When Colby came up to apartment 514, Josephine killed her. Detective Ooa finished flatly. Dolores nodded miserably. She told me after I came up to check on her that evening and found. God help me, I helped her. I should have called the police, but I couldn't bear to lose her. She was all I had. What did you do with the body, detective? OOA's voice was carefully controlled. We cleaned the apartment, replaced the carpet, repainted. I put her in a large laundry bag and drove out to the mountains past city limits. There's an old hiking trail nobody uses anymore. We buried her there. Irene was crying silently now, tears streaming down her face. But that's not where she is now, Dolores added quietly. 3 years ago, Josephine went back, dug her up, said she wanted to keep her close, as a reminder of what she'd done for love. She had kept the bones. Jesus Christ. Officer Chen muttered, "You're under arrest." Detective Ooa said, pulling out his handcuffs, "You have the right to remain silent." As he read Dolores her rights, another officer arrived to transport her. She handed over her keys to the building, including the master key, to Josephine's apartment, Unit 514. She said dully, though she moved most everything out this morning to live with him, to finally have the life she stole from that poor girl. They took Dolores away in the patrol car, while Detective Ooa, Officer Chen and Ina headed up to the 5th floor. The apartment was nearly empty, just some old furniture and a few boxes in the closet, nothing that would help their case. Let's check what's at Robbie's house, Detective Ua said, coordinating with other units over his radio. And we still have that package. They returned to the police car, where Josephine's box still sat in the trunk, sealed and waiting. Detective Ooa put on latex gloves and carefully opened it, while Officer Chin photographed everything for evidence. What they found made Irene's knees buckle. Cole's USPS uniform, neatly folded, her name tag still pinned to the breast pocket, her white sun hat, the one she always wore to protect her face from the Texas sun, her blue mail baskets and delivery bag, her belt with the worn spot where she clipped her scanner, and in the center, wrapped in what looked like an old baby blanket, was an ornate ceramic urn. No, Irene whispered, no, no, no. Detective Ooa carefully lifted the urn, and they could hear the shift of ashes and bones inside. He looked at the bottom, where someone had used a label maker to create a small tag. CM1, 1997, Colby Martinez. She was sending her to Colorado. Officer Chen said quietly, getting rid of the evidence, but Irene intercepted it. Detective Ooa said if she hadn't offered to help with those boxes. Irene sank to her knees beside the car, sobbing. 7 years of hoping Colby might walk through the door someday. 7 years of not knowing, and all this time Josephine had kept her sister's bones like some sick trophy. Detective OOA knelt beside her. "I'm so sorry, Miss Martinez, but we have her now. Both of them. They'll pay for what they did to Colby. She kept her." Irene choked out. Kept her bones all these years while dating Robbie, while carrying his baby. How could she? We need to get this to the forensics lab. Detective Ooa said gently, "Confirm, the remains are human build. Our case, can you make it to the station? We still need your full statement." Irene nodded numbly, letting Officer Chin help her to her feet. She looked once more at the box holding her sister's belongings, her sister's remains, then got into the police car. The afternoon sun was setting as they drove to the station, painting the Rio Grande Valley in shades of orange and red. 7 years of questions finally had answers, terrible, heartbreaking answers that Irene wished she could unknow. The police station felt different now, heavier somehow. As Irene followed Detective OOA through the familiar corridors, they paused at the forensics lab, where he carefully handed over the box containing Cole's belongings and remains. Priority processing. He told the technician, "We need confirmation on the human remains as soon as possible." The technician, a young woman with serious eyes behind thick glasses, nodded as she labeled the evidence and logged it into the system. "I'll start the analysis immediately." Detective Irene watched her sister's things disappear behind the lab door. Feeling like she was losing Colby all over again, Detective Ua touched her elbow gently. "Come on, we need to get your statement while everything's still fresh." They'd barely made it 3 steps when Officer Mendez approached with a manila folder. "Detective, the interrogation transcript from Dolores Ramirez. Thought you'd want to see this right away." Detective A flipped through it quickly. As they walked, his expression growing grimmer. With each page they entered a small interview room where Irene had given statements before 7 years ago, when hope was still fresh and raw. "Let's start from this morning," Detective Oa said, setting up a digital recorder. "When you first received the call about the bicycle." Irene recounted everything: the canal, meeting Josephine at Robbie's house, the package, the surveillance footage finding Josephine hanging in her bedroom. Her voice only broke once when describing the urn among KBY's possessions. Detective OOA studied the interrogation file while she spoke, occasionally asking clarifying questions. When she finished, he leaned back in his chair, rubbing his tired eyes. "What does Dolores's statement say?" Irene asked. He flipped through the pages. "Most of it confirms what she told us at the apartment. She's provided more details about helping Josephine all these years, how she warned her when we started asking questions." He paused at one section. "Says here, Josephine was the one who planned everything. She was convinced Colby didn't deserve Robbie, that a postal worker wasn't good enough for him. Josephine saw herself as better, more worthy. My sister was studying to be a nurse," Irene said quietly. "She was smart, ambitious. She was going to be more than just a postal worker." "I know." Detective Ua's voice was gentle. "Dolores says she deeply regrets not reporting it when Josephine first told her what she planned, but she'd come to see Josephine as the daughter she never had. She'd been trying to have children for years, couldn't conceive when this teenage runaway showed up at her building. She thought it was fate." "Does she say how Josephine did it?" Detective Uwa's jaw tightened. "She found a knife afterward, multiple stab wounds, but she claims she doesn't know the exact sequence of events." "How did no one hear anything?" Irene's hands clenched in her lap. "Colby would have fought back. She would have screamed. The report suggests Josephine might have drugged her first, or it could have happened in the bathroom, where sound wouldn't carry as much. We won't know for certain until we can interview Josephine herself." A knock on the door interrupted them. Officer Chen stuck his head in. "Detective, the hospital called with an update. Robbie Delgado is out of immediate danger, but still in intensive care. Josephine Miller has been moved to a secure room. She's stable, but still unconscious. They saved her barely. What about their vehicle?" "Found it at the Sunny Acres trailer park about a mile from Ms. Martinez's house, hidden between 2 abandoned campers." Detective Ua nodded, processing this information. "So Josephine drugged Robbie at the house, left him there, drove to hide the car, then walked back to hang herself, all after getting that warning call from Dolores." "Why my house?" Irene asked. "Why not do it somewhere else?" "To hurt you," Detective Ua said simply. "Look at the note she left. She knew the police were closing in, knew she couldn't run while pregnant, so she decided to go out on her own terms, while inflicting maximum pain, making you find her, making it happen in your home. It was all calculated cruelty." Irene felt sick. Colby never mentioned anyone named Josephine, never said anything about someone bothering her or Robbie. "I was so wrapped up in my own life, my classes and work, I just assumed she and Robbie were perfect together. You couldn't have known." Detective Ua said firmly. "Josephine had been watching from the shadows, planning. This isn't on you." "When will I get my sister back?" Irene asked. "Her remains. I want to bury her properly once the forensics are complete and the investigation is officially closed. We'll return everything to you." He stood, gathering his files. "Is there anything else you need right now?" "I want to go to the hospital, see Robbie. I need to be there when he wakes up." Detective Ua nodded. I'll have Officer Chen drive you and Miss Martinez. I'm truly sorry for your loss, but we got him, both of them. They'll face justice for what they did to Colby. The drive to Valley Regional Medical Center was quiet. Officer Chen seemed to understand that Irene needed silence to process everything. The evening was falling, painting long shadows across the hospital parking lot as they arrived inside. The ICU was a controlled chaos of beeping machines and quiet efficiency. A nurse directed them to Robbie's room after checking with security. Apparently Detective Ua had called ahead to authorize the visit. Irene stood at the window, looking into Robbie's room. He lay still on the hospital bed, connected to multiple monitors and IVs. His face was pale, but his chest rose and fell steadily alive. Unlike Colby, he'd survived Josephine's final act of cruelty. He's lucky, the nurse said quietly beside her. A few more minutes, and we might not have been able to bring him back. The amount of opioids in his system was massive. Irene pressed her palm against the glass. Robbie had loved Colby. She knew that whatever his faults, however, he'd moved on. He genuinely cared for her sister, and now he'd almost died because of it. Because Josephine couldn't let go of an obsession that had already claimed one life. When will he wake up? She asked. Hard to say. Could be hours, could be tomorrow. His body needs time to recover. Irene nodded, not moving from the window. She thought about Josephine somewhere else in this hospital, also fighting for her life. The woman who'd murdered her sister, kept her ashes as a trophy, lived a lie for 7 years. The woman carrying Robbie's child. What a mess, what a terrible, twisted mess. But at least now there would be answers. At least now there would be justice. I'll wait, Irene said softly, settling into a chair where she could see Robbie through the window. However long it takes, I'll be here when he wakes up. She owed Colby that much to see this through, to make sure Josephine paid for what she'd done. As the hospital settled into its evening routine around her, Irene kept her vigil, watching over the man her sister had loved, and made a silent promise Josephine would face justice. Colby would finally rest in peace, and somehow they would all find a way to heal from this nightmare that had lasted 7 long years.